right, let's dive into hymn 9. You all sent this in. It's this ancient Tamil poetry, and wow, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's really fascinating how poetry from so long ago can still, speak to us today.
I know, right? So before we, totally geek out on the language, let's do a quick overview. We've got 8 lines, all translated, and some explanations and a summary to kind of tie it all together. And here's the thing, we're not just talking like your typical love poems or anything. This is deep stuff, about time, spiritual awakening, even hints of resurrection.
Definitely sounds like we're in for a thought-provoking journey.
For sure. Okay, so line 1 kind of sets the scene. It says, in this world of joy, time is measured in every way. It's almost like right off the bat, the poet is making us think, how often do we even stop and consider how joy and time are connected?
It really is a striking observation, isn't it? We always say time flies when you're having fun, but this takes it to another level. It's in a world full of joy, time isn't just a straight line. It changes. It's like a personal thing.
Yeah, it really makes you wonder if the way we experience joy actually shapes how we perceive time itself.
Yeah.
Okay, but then line 2 kind of throws a curveball. It says, the divine moment, having been tested through grace, shall come. And suddenly, time takes on this whole other meaning.
Totally. This divine moment, it's not just random, it's earned, it's the result of all these experiences, maybe even struggles. That phrase, tested through grace, that really jumps out.
It does, right? What kind of tests do you think the poet's talking about? Are we talking challenges out in the world, or maybe internal battles, the stuff we deal with inside?
I think, it could be both. A lot of spiritual traditions see tests as chances to grow. They kind of force you to face your limits, your fears, and in the end, you understand yourself better and the world too.
That makes me think about line 3, where the poet's don't doubt this moment. It's like they're saying, trust the process, even when it's rough. This moment, this clarity, it's worth it.
Yeah, totally. And this is where it gets really interesting. Line 4 hits us with this powerful image. This is the moment when even the dead will rise, O world. Now, we're not talking about, zombies here,
yeah,
right?
That's what I thought, too. It's got to be symbolic, right? The poet's trying to show us just how huge this transformation is. So could this resurrection be more like a metaphor? Like a huge awakening, letting go of old ways of thinking, a rebirth, maybe?
I think you're onto something. In Tamil culture, and especially in their spirituality, resurrection, it often means not coming back physically, but spiritually, the soul waking up again, rising to a higher level of consciousness.
Wow. Okay, yeah, that's powerful. And it ties in perfectly with lines 5 and 6, where the poet gets personal. They say, I hid the truth. I shall now state it fearlessly. It's not just philosophy anymore. It's a personal declaration.
Right. It makes you wonder, what truth were they hiding? And what made them suddenly so brave to reveal it? It's very human, Often when we grow, we got to face our fears and be vulnerable.
And it seems like revealing the truth is, totally connected to that divine moment. Reaching that point of clarity gives the poet the strength to speak their truth without being afraid. Do you think that's what the poem's getting at?
That's a really insightful take on it. You can feel this sense of freedom in those lines, letting go of the need to fit in or hold back. It's like the poet saying, once you've seen the light, you can't help but let it shine.
That's so inspiring. It makes you want to go on that same journey to discover your own truth and share it with everyone. But, okay, hold on. Let's look at lines 7 and 8. Here, the poem introduces this idea of seeking grace. It says, in a holy place, I receive the Father's grace. What kind of holy place are we talking about?
That's a great question. It could be a literal place of worship, sure. But I also feel there's a deeper meaning. Maybe it's talking about a state of being still inside, a sacred space, inside ourselves, where we connect to something bigger.
So it's not about going somewhere specific, but more about creating that inner peace, that place where we can really hear our own wisdom and get guidance.
Exactly. It's about creating that space inside where we're open to the grace that's always there for us.
Okay, so we've gone from this world of joy where time bends and stretches to this divine moment that you earn through trials. And now we're in a holy place receiving grace. Feels like we're building towards something really big here.
We are. And then the last line throws in this twist, bringing in love, the summary says. It emphasizes that love in a holy place is the supreme spiritual experience. It's like love is the key to everything.
It's like the poet is saying love is the ultimate truth, the force that leads us to that divine moment and gives us the strength to speak our truth without fear. Ooh, this is a lot to process. And honestly, we're just getting started.
You're telling me there's so much more to explore here, but before we dive deeper, I'm curious, what stood out to you the most in this first part?
I gotta say, that connection between joy, time, and that divine moment, that really got me thinking. Like, maybe experiencing joy more fully can actually lead us to those moments of, like, deeper understanding. What do you think?
I love that. That's fascinating. It makes you think, joy isn't just a fleeting feeling. It can be a path to a more meaningful life. Definitely something to ponder as we unravel the rest of this amazing poem. You've really hit on something there. It's like joy, it's not just about feeling good for a minute. It's deeper than that. It's like connecting to something, a purpose, a meaning. And maybe that's a big part of this divine moment that the poem keeps talking about.
Right. It's like joy becomes this fuel for spiritual growth. It pushes us towards that transformation. But the poem doesn't like sugarcoat the journey, does it? Remember those tests through grace?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. The road to awakening, it's not always smooth sailing, right? You're going to hit bumps, you'll have doubts, maybe even wrestle with beliefs you've held for a long time. But the poem seems to be saying those struggles, they're crucial. They're part of it all.
Yeah, it's like those tests. They refine us like gold getting purified in fire. They burn away the stuff that's holding us back, and what's left is stronger, more real.
Beautiful analogy. And that connects back to the poet's own transformation, right? Going from hiding the truth to shouting it out fearlessly. Maybe those tests were what gave them the strength to be authentic.
Makes you think about truth itself, doesn't it? Is truth like this fixed thing that never changes, or does it change as we grow, as we experience life?
That's a deep one. I think truth, it's got layers. There are truths that are universal, like eternal laws of the universe, kinda. But there's also like your personal truth, the understanding you build from your own life,
And maybe the poet's journey is all about bringing those two together, finding that place where universal wisdom and personal understanding, they line up. And maybe that's when we find the courage to speak our truth, even when it's tough.
You nailed it. And remember, the poem says we're not alone in this. There's grace, this energy that guides us and keeps us going.
Right, like that line about receiving the Father's grace in a holy place. It's comforting, knowing we've got this well of support, whether it's inside us or something bigger.
Like having a compass, right? To guide you when life gets twisty. Even if you feel lost or unsure, you can always turn inwards to that peaceful place to find your way again.
Like a reminder that we're not meant to figure it all out on our own. We've got this divine guidance, this loving presence. It's always there to help us.
Absolutely. And that brings us back to love, which like the poem keeps saying is at the heart of the spiritual experience. And it's not just like romantic love. It's bigger. It's love for all beings, love that connects us to the source of life,
That's what makes this poem so powerful. It speaks to this truth that goes beyond time and culture, the truth that love is like the ultimate connector, the key to becoming our best selves.
And it's not just about being loved. It's about being love, about letting it flow through us and touch everyone around us.
That makes me think about the poet sharing their truth. Maybe it wasn't just about like setting themselves free, but also about giving a gift to the world, a message of hope, of inspiration.
I love that perspective. By sharing their own awakening, they're inviting us to do the same, to find our own truth and share it with everyone.
It's like a ripple effect. One person being brave enough to share their truth can inspire others to do the same, and that creates this wave of awakening that spreads everywhere.
It's powerful imagery, right? It speaks to how connected we all are. We're not just islands, Our journeys they're woven together, and when we all awaken, it helps consciousness evolve as a whole.
This poem is giving me chills. It's amazing how like 8 lines can hold so much depth, so much wisdom. I gotta be honest, it's a lot to take in. I feel like we could talk for hours about every little detail, every metaphor.
Totally. Ancient poetry, it's meant to be savored, Contemplate it. Come back to it again and again. Each time you do, you might see something new, some insight that clicks with where you are in life.
I love that. It's like we change and grow over time, right?
Yeah.
Well, what might have seemed confusing before, suddenly it makes sense. It reveals a truth that we're finally ready for.
Exactly. And the cool thing about art is it meets you where you are. It can comfort you, guide you when you need it most. It's like a mirror reflecting what's inside you.
This conversation is making me realize Hymn 9 isn't just like a poem. It's a guide to living a better, more aware, more fulfilling life.
Couldn't agree more. It's a guide through all the twists and turns of being human, a reminder to find joy, to seek truth, and to remember that love is the guiding force.
It makes you wonder, if you had that divine moment of clarity that the poem describes, what truth would you be ready to share with the world? What about you?
Wow, that's a beautiful question. It makes you think about your own journey, doesn't it? What truths have shaped you? What wisdom do you wanna pass on?
It's like the poem is challenging us to be truth tellers, to embrace the responsibility that comes with waking up to a higher level of consciousness.
It's a challenge, yeah, but it's also an invitation to step into our power, to use our voices to create a world that's more beautiful, more just.
I feel like we've just scratched the surface of this incredible poem, and yet we've already uncovered so much. But before we get too lost in thought, I'd love to hear your final thoughts. What's the one thing you'd want our listener to walk away with today?
That's a tough one. So many things to choose from. But I think if I had to pick just one, it'd be that divine moment the poem talks about. It's not something way off in the future. You know, it's within reach for all of us, like right here, right now. If we're willing to nurture that joy, to face those tests, and to accept the grace that's always there for us.
I love that. It's so easy to think like enlightenment is this distant goal we got to struggle for, but you're right. It's really about the choices we make every day.
Exactly. It's like, are we choosing joy even when things are hard? Are we willing to see those tests as opportunities to grow? Are we open to receiving the grace, the support that's all around us? Those choices, those little moments of awareness, those are what can lead to those big shifts, those transformations that the poem talks about.
It's like we're creating our own awakenings bit by bit, choice by choice. And as we do that, we become part of something bigger, a collective awakening that can change the world.
Wow, that's beautiful. And it brings us back to that idea of sharing our truth, right? It's not enough to just have these personal awakenings. We're meant to share what we've learned, to let our light shine and inspire others to go on their own journeys of self-discovery.
Like we're all like pieces of a giant puzzle. Each one of us has a unique perspective, and we need all those perspectives for the whole picture to make sense. And when we share our truths, we help each other see that bigger picture, that interconnectedness.
Absolutely. It's about realizing our journeys, they're not happening in isolation. They're part of a bigger story, a grand unfolding of consciousness, like on a global scale. And every time we're brave, every time we speak our truth, it contributes to that collective awakening.
This deep dive has been incredible. Hymn 9, man, it's taken us on quite a ride. We started off talking about joy and time, then we got into spiritual awakening and the challenges along the way. We even talked about like resurrection and what it might symbolize.
And through it all, we kept coming back to these themes of courage, grace, and love, the courage to be ourselves, the grace that guides us, and the love that connects everything.
You know, I gotta admit, I started this deep dive feeling a little, I don't know, intimidated by ancient poetry. But honestly, this has been one of the most rewarding conversations I've had in a long time.
Me too. There's something about these timeless texts. They awaken something deep inside us, something that wants meaning, that wants connection, that wants to belong to something bigger than ourselves.
So true. Well, on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive. But before we go, I want to leave our listeners with a final thought, something to chew on.
Okay, I'm listening.
Imagine if that divine moment of clarity, that moment the poem talks about, if it arrived in your life right now, what truth would you be ready to share with the world? What wisdom have you gathered on your journey? Really sit with that question and see what comes up. You might be surprised by what you find.
And remember, you don't need to have it all figured out to share your truth. Sometimes the most powerful truths are the ones that come from being vulnerable, from sharing our struggles and our triumphs with the world.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into Hymn 9. We hope it's sparked something in you, a sense of wonder, maybe some curiosity, even a little bit of courage to really step into your truth.
And until next time, may your journey be full of joy, grace, and the love that connects us all.